Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. Now, I'm not going to say thank God it's Monday because I'm never thanking God it's Monday. But, we have a World Series to watch, and I will be very interested in watching it because my team is going to be in it for the first time in 15 years, not guaranteeing that they're going to win it because the Dodgers are good. Russ knows something about that. But I do think, we're starting the pre-show here, and I'm sure Russ is going to talk about other things other than the World Series, but I'll just say this. I think that the Yankees should be favored because I think their pitching is better. But you've got Ohtani and Betts and Freeman and
Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah, they're the top of their lineup, and they got
that other guy. I can't remember.
Will Smith and Tommy Edman. And
Edman is like hitting the cover off the ball right now. He's the hottest hitter.
Former Cardinal. So, their lineup is really good. So, if the Yankees are going to win it, they're going to need Cole and Rodon to pitch like they have been pitching in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. But I'll just say this. It is absolutely stupid that the series starts on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. It's like, so, it could have been, you could have started it on Wednesday, even if there was a game 7.
And it would be nice weather. Like, don't you want to play into it with nicer weather?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, it's opening in LA. So the first 2 games in LA, and I'm pretty sure it's 2-3-2. So you're talking about more than likely Friday, Saturday for games 1 and 2, then a travel day. And then it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, or Monday. I don't know if there's games days in between. Next week, if you get a lot of rain in New York in late around Halloween, So anyway, so we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Ross.
Yeah, the only thing I'll mention is, I was happy with the Mets season. I'm not upset. I'm not mad. I'm not hurt. It was unexpected. I don't know if they'll get back next year because they have all these free agents. It's not a normal year where everybody's returning. So, we'll deal with that down the road. I was at the Jet game where they melted down in the second half. And Aaron Rodgers better be careful because he's already starting to sort of blame the New York media. He's telling their teammates, don't listen to the media. Like the media is having them make mistakes, no. But that's a big thing because he was only dealing with Green Bay. Green Bay doesn't have much media. Okay. New York is going to look at everything, and if he starts whining on Pat McAfee's show, it's going to cause a big problem.
You're going to blame the media for a ball, and Garrett Wilson should have caught the ball for a ball.
It wasn't the perfect pass either. It was both.
It was pretty good, right? It hit him on the 5.
It was a little behind him, though. It was,
but it bounced off of his. Should have caught it. Goes right to a Pittsburgh, and I think that was the turning point of the game.
It wasn't. The turning point was right before the half. The Jets were up by 8, I think it was.
Right.
And he threw a pick 6 on a ball that had no business even trying to be forced in. Not a pick 6, but he threw an interception that they ended up scoring on. That was the turning point because all I was saying in the stands was just don't F up. If you don't F up here and you get, because they were getting the ball in the second half, that would have been a big deal. Nope, it went the other way. It gave the Steelers momentum going into the locker room, and I think that helped because for the first quarter, not only were the Steelers fans booing Russell Wilson, but that stadium was quiet for a quarter and a half when the Jets were doing their thing. Then all of a sudden that play riled the place up, and then all of a sudden they were okay with Russell Wilson. But for a quarter and a half, they were booing him. They didn't even like the fact that he was on the field at the beginning. So
they wanted Fields.
The Jets blew an opportunity there, but that's usual. So
and
over it.
And I'll just say because I was watching the Bills game and CBS and much to my chagrin again with the cheap B-roll of showing Niagara Falls circa 1965 because I'm sure they didn't fly over and get fresh pictures of the falls every single time they have to show Niagara Falls when Niagara Falls is nowhere close to Buffalo. Stop it, for Christ's sake. It's so weak. But the Bills were basically comatose until late second quarter, and then 34 straight points. It's like, I hate when teams do that. When a team is clearly better than another team, they take the other team for granted, and they basically like, okay, and then they're losing, and then all of a sudden they turn it on, and like, I mean,
Yeah, the Bills have a problem with that. If they think they can do that all season, they're going to have a problem.
that's not good. Okay, let's get started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, October 21st, 2024.
I'm Russ Cohen from NHLDraftBuzz.com and Sportsology.com.
And I'm Michael Lagello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, I figured like after a couple of weeks, we could just take a quick overview of the league. We're not going to do a long show today because, frankly, I got a lot of things to do.
Wow, Mike's a busy man.
Just kidding. But no, we'll start in the Eastern Conference, and we'll do the Western Conference on Wednesday. But the East is interesting. You know, most of the teams have played 7 games. Only one team, Tampa Bay, which has a weird schedule, in Washington and Carolina have played 4 games. There's a lot of, there's a wide disparity based on scheduling for the buildings. But right now, the New Jersey Devils, I think a lot of people predicted that they would be in first place, or they would have a chance at winning the Metro. And Florida, not surprisingly, is leading the Atlantic Division.
Right.
Now, I saw Florida here in Buffalo last week. It was not the Florida team that you would think, because Bobrovsky was not playing. Kachuk was not playing. Barkov is injured. But in the interim, Russ, Sam Reinhart has stepped up in the spot of Barkov. I don't think he's playing center, but he is stepped up in terms of his responsibilities. He was named NHL First Star of the Week this week. He had 9 points in 4 games. And they're 4-2-1 right now. So, this is a team that's won a cup. So this is what you expect out of a cup win.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect anything less. I feel like they were going to be good. I touted the Devils, where I picked them. So not surprised. Some of the teams not doing so well, not surprised. There's always a few surprises. But right now, a lot of it's kind of going to script.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll see. I know that Knight played a game after the game in Buffalo, so it may have been just like an early season hiccup. I mean, he's a talented kid. I think that they still see him as the future there. They signed him to a long-term deal a couple of years ago, and he had his issues, had to go into the players' assistance program, and now has come out of it, and now he is backing up Bobrovsky after Stolarz backed him up. So, interesting thing with the Bruins, and I didn't hear all the detail of it, but apparently there was a physical confrontation between Jim Montgomery and Brad Marchand after they had lost a game to Utah this weekend. And I just heard the Elliot Friedman discussion of this, which is a little surprising because Marchand is now the captain. But you've got a team here where, like, I looked at Boston and I said, I think they're vastly improved over last year because they basically brought back the same team. They got rid of Allmark. They had to because of salary. They got rid of Jake DeBrusk because he was a free agent. He was constantly on the trade block, so they finally let him go. But they bring in Zadorov. They bring in Lindholm. And right now they're 3-2-1 in 6 games, 7 points. But I mean, I don't know all the detail here about the Marchand thing, but he is the captain of that team now. So that anything that's going on with him, I'm sure, that let's just say he's never been a non-controversial figure.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made him captain just simply because he is volatile. I would have done it to McAvoy or somebody like that because you don't want it to be a guy who's volatile. You want it to be a guy that's level-headed and can lead and everything. And I think there are times that Marchand can lead, but then there's times that he is, his emotions rule him. And I don't think that's good captain material.
No. As somebody pointed out in the chat, tonight, Toronto and Tampa play for the first time, and that game is on Amazon Prime Video.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm sure A lot of people in Canada who don't have Amazon Prime, who just expect to turn on Sportsnet or TSN for regional coverage, will be very pleased at that. Now, I'm trying to figure out whether there's a way for me to see that broadcast here in the U.S. I know the game's going to be on NHL Network, but I asked around, and the NHL Network broadcast is more than likely going to be probably the Tampa home broadcast, or is it going to be like Kevin Weeks in the studio someplace?
No, they've got an embarrassment of riches here. They're using 4 guys. They've got Forsland, which is great.
Yep.
Cody Shelley, Thomas Hickey, Shane Knighty. So that's a lot.
Yeah, and Andy Petrillo doing the pregame host. I know her well from Leafs TV and
so
Toronto area. So no, it's a great broadcast. I just want to see. I want to be able to see it.
Yeah, well,
I don't know whether I will be
able to the Amazon Prime money, and you can see it, Mike.
Oh, well, it's Amazon Prime Canada.
Well, true, yeah.
So I don't think even if I had Amazon Prime and I spent the money, the big money.
I kind of wonder about that. Let's see.
Yeah, but okay. Well, I just wanted to this one story that I really wanted to. Oh yes, I mentioned this earlier, and on the weekend, Elliot.
I'll watch it in the U.S.
Nope. Okay, there you go. On the weekend, Elliot Friedman reported something that, well, we knew the NHL draft was going to change,
right?
Much to our chagrin. The NHL draft, it still hasn't been confirmed by the league, but I think it was David Pagnotta from the Fourth Period reported that it's going to be in Los Angeles, but it really doesn't mean squat because nobody's going to go.
That's not true. There will be some media there.
There'll be some
less than usual.
Well, okay. I'm not going to go because I and if I don't go, then what's the point in going?
I'll still go, Mike. I'll miss you.
Yeah, well, I'd love to go if all the teams were there and all the players were there, and it would be the same thing.
All the players will be there.
Not all of them. It's not going to. You know how many players and their families go. It's not going to be like that.
I don't know that yet. See, here's what I think. What I think is going to happen is you'll set up wherever you want to set up, in Buffalo at the rink or at their practice rink at Harbor Center. They'll get drafted. They'll go through the gauntlet there, including people like me that are actually there as media. And then they will do Zoom calls with people like you, and then eventually get to Buffalo and the other places a day or so later. Mm-hmm. So I think there's still going to be a day 1 and day 2. And I still think a lot of players will be there.
Hmm. Let's just say
there's no reason for players not to go. It's still their big moment. Why wouldn't they go? There's going to be a lot of fans there. They're doing it at a theater, so I expect there's going to be an overflow outside. Like, why wouldn't they want to take part in that?
Yeah,
give me a reason. That's all I'm asking.
Because there won't be anybody else there. I mean,
that's the thing. If you're a kid, this is the biggest moment in your life, and you could go to LA and get on stage and get beamed around and at least get some interviews done, which you will. Why wouldn't I do that?
Probably for the cost, probably for the fact
Don't worry about that. I'm telling you, all the first rounders will be there, and I expect there'll be maybe a few less, like maybe some of the 7th rounders, 6th rounders, if their agents don't think they're going to be, they might stay, because it's on the West Coast, stay away, but I think it'll still be pretty well attended, honestly.
But the reason I brought this up is because Elliot Friedman reported that there are not going to be NHL awards.
Right.
There was an awards ceremony last year, and usually it's in Vegas. This year, it sounds like they're going to do it more like the NBA, where they announce awards individually. They would, maybe have some sort of presentation at the, like when the NBA has the MVP, they have the MVP trophy brought to like Chicago when Michael Jordan. Right. I don't know. Well, okay, I'll just say this. I never watched the award ceremony because it's cringeworthy, because usually they have a comic who stinks. And it's all pomp and circumstance.
Dave Foley stinks. I like Dave Foley.
No, I didn't say specifically Dave Foley. I'm just saying
he was one of them for
some of them stink. Like Will Arnett stinks, even though he's a Leaf fan. But anyway, but
Dave Foley and tell him you said it stinks.
No, I met Dave Foley once at Scotiabank Arena. He was in the line for the bathroom, like I was. I met him. I did meet him.
Okay. And was he a nice guy?
I just said hi, and he said hi back. So
there you go.
Yeah. And I didn't say anything bad about Dave Foley. I just said, hey. But
you would have, though.
No, I wouldn't have. You assume too much for us.
Here's what I would say. I've been there 3 or 4 times when it was in Toronto, made the trip. Why did I make the trip? Because at that time, when the players would win, they would come right backstage where a room where all the media was and talk to the media right then and there, right after they gave their speech. That was good for content because you got it immediately. Then it was kind of like, well, the show is here. You could attend the show, but then the players are going to get bussed over there, and you could go. And it's like that's when the media, I believe, started to get less enamored with the ceremony. So now that it's in LA and they don't have the deal in Vegas anymore, I get what they're doing. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, what I was saying before was I never really watched it. It was glitzy. It was too, whatever. It was a lot of pomp and circumstance for an award. Okay, you have top 3 for the awards and name the award. So I'm actually in favor of getting away from the ceremony because it's just and you know what? The funny thing is like it's a wasted day in the sense of the schedule. So like if you were going to have the draft the way it was, then this would be a day or two. Remember, say, for example, the draft starts on Friday, Saturday. They usually have the NHL awards on Wednesday?
Yeah.
So there's 2 days in the schedule that are wasted in a sense because of the NHL awards. They could move the draft up 2 days and then have a gap between the draft and free agency if they held the draft the way it was, but they're not going to. So I don't care. Okay, so in the Metro division right now, as I said, the Devils 5-2-1. They played the most games, 8. I think the most in the NHL this already so far. Yep, most.
Because overseas
because of the global series. The Rangers, however, are 4-0-1. They've only played 5 games, only 2 points behind them. We saw the Rangers play on Saturday in Toronto, and Igor Shesterkin, boy, did he do wonders for his leverage when it comes to a new contract.
Not according to some older hockey folk on Twitter.
That older hockey folk should go into a padded cell.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why he's trolling Shesterkin the way he is. It's ridiculous. The guy's obviously a stud goalie. Most teams would kill to have him as a goalie, and most teams, if they had the cap space, would pay him.
Yeah, he must think that Igor Shesterkin is Steve the Puck Gozinski.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry. It's
no Chris Terreri, Mike. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, okay. This is the thing. It's like Igor Shesterkin is the best or second best goaltender in the league. Do I think he should be paid $12 million? No, but I think he should be paid 11 and a half. He summarily rejected 11. It's a negotiation. So, I mean, if they get him under 12, that's probably going to be a good deal.
Yeah. But the goalie market is being reformulated as we speak. It started with the 8.5 deals, and now it's going to be the 12 deal.
Yeah, it's every goaltender under the moon, not named Vasilevsky or Bobrovsky, is signing 8.25. Sorokin, Ottinger, Swayman, and Ullmark, all of them 8.25.
Right, Hellebuck's 8.5.
Hellebuck's 8. Yeah, Hellebuck's a little more. But this is the thing. I mean, Shesterkin is in that Vasilevsky level. He just hasn't won a cup yet, but he is in that level or on that level. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't see an issue here, but somebody else does. Okay. The other, let's see here. The Capitals are at 3-1, so 6 points, starting off the year well.
They have a back-to-back too with the Flyers, so that's important for both teams, really. Flyers are not off to a good start. The Capitals are, and they could make some headway with that.
Well, I'll get to the Flyers in a second, but
Yep.
the Islanders are 2-1-2 and got some bad news regarding their one free agent addition, the guy who they were relying on to boost their offense. It sounds like Anthony Duclair is out long term. I think they said it was an Achilles, which. Yeah, it is. He's a really good player, but I'm just saying,
just really like last couple of years, really like taking it, I think, to another level for him as far as reliability. Yeah, this is like bad luck for the Islanders because they need that offense.
And now, I mean, I don't know where they're going to go to get that offense. Now they don't have a lot of cap space. They waived Julien Gauthier. I think they waived him yesterday. They've sent Pierre Engvall down to the minors. They really don't have anybody to step in.
Engvall will be back. He's not going to stay in the minors.
No, but offensively, he's not going to do what Duclair did.
No. But the interesting thing is, like, they're literally at zero. They're 14 goals for, 14 goals against, and Lou always said he'll play the differential. They're going to start being on the negative side of the differential if they don't watch it, and that's what's going to make it hard for them to make the playoffs.
Now, the interesting story is the Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Pittsburgh Penguins, they did win on, it was last Wednesday, when they came back from a 5-3 deficit to tie and then win in overtime over Buffalo. But they're 3-4 in 7 games. They lost in Winnipeg on Sunday, lost to Eric Comrie.
Yeah, I was watching that game before we went into Sunday Night Football, and they were just trading goals with Winnipeg. Like, their defense cannot handle it.
Now, I don't know.
Play a team like Winnipeg, right? They start to lose the battles, like, for the defensive battles, and that's what the problem is. So it'll be like goal, and it's like they can't win a game like that.
No, and their issue here is, I mean, more than just playing defense. Their issue is goaltending.
That's definitely because Jarry's up and he's down. Yeah.
Yeah, Tristan Jarry is a sieve right now. I know against Buffalo they brought in Bloomquist and he played decently.
Yeah.
Now Nedeljkovic is back, but Jarry right now. I mean, I heard Elliot Friedman talking about this and the fact that they're talking about sitting Jarry for a little while and treating him like the Leafs treated Ilya Samsonov, giving him sort of an emotional, mental reset,
right?
Allowing him to. Now, I mean, if you're talking 7 games into the season and already you're doing that to your goaltending, the problem is more than just the goaltending. The problem is the way that your team is playing defense.
Yeah, it is the way the team's playing defense, and so we'll see. I mean, I spoke to Penguins fans about Rutger McGarty, and I'm like, look, he's a great guy. He was not ready. He wasn't going to be ready, even though people said, well, we like what we saw preseason on the third line. Sure, it's preseason.
Yeah.
It's different now. He needs to have an AHL season under his belt.
Right.
His last season at Michigan wasn't a barn burner, so he needs to take his game to another level. It's easier to try and do that in the AHL because otherwise he's going to get put on a line, third line with the Penguins and expected to score right away. And if he doesn't, then it starts hurting him and his development. And that's not a good idea. So they did the right thing.
And apparently he was missed at the I think it's still called the MTS Center in Winnipeg because there was a loud chant of "Where's Rutger" during the game.
I
mean, they're hurt. They were spurned by their.
It's happened enough now in the league that singular fan bases shouldn't be taking it like that because it's happened to a lot of teams at this point.
Sure. I mean, I don't know if Quebec booed Eric Lindros every time he touched the puck between.
Probably did. Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now Columbus is 2-3 through 5 games. I mean, they played a very good game against the Sabres, beat them on Thursday. I mean, they're not a playoff team, and obviously the loss of Johnny Gaudreau on the not only in the locker room but on the ice as one of their best players. And then Kent Johnson gets hurt, and it doesn't sound like it's a short-term injury.
Oh, this is tough for Kent Johnson. Like this may start to affect his development, and I feel bad. Like I hope it's not longer term because he's just having some bad luck now.
But let's talk the Flyers, because the Flyers have started out 1-3-1. First 5 games. They got shut out by Nashville. Was it Nashville? I'm sorry.
No.
Kevin Lankinen. It was
Lankinen.
Seattle?
Hold on. It was
I'm drawing a blank. You were at the game.
It was Vancouver.
Lankinen. Ooh. Sorry. I knew the goalie. I didn't know the team. Lankinen used to play for Nashville, so thank you very much. But okay, so Vancouver. This is the thing. Last year they started off like a house on fire, and they sort of coasted, and then dropped like a stone the last month and finished out of the playoffs.
Right.
This could be the best thing for the Flyers. You dig yourself a hole 1-6-1, 1-7-1, then there's no doubt that you're a rebuilding team. Now, Torts isn't going to like it.
No.
But that's what they are. And last year was a lot of smoke and mirrors. There was a lot of effort there. There was some good players playing well.
And they had Carter Hart. And
Carter Hart.
And Urson was a backup. So that's a big difference. All of that matters. But here's the issue of it. The issue of it is, you're right. In the end, it would be more of a help to them. But it's a hindrance because the coach doesn't want to play it that way. So what happens? Is you get Emil Andre, who gets called up, and he doesn't play a game. Now they just sent him down today. So he didn't play a game. You get Jet Luchenko, who they put in the lineup, who is clearly just surviving.
Yeah.
And that's, he's not hurting them, but he's not helping them enough. So you have that. So Emil Andre could be a developing player for him, but they'd rather play Eric Johnson, and Eric Johnson's a nice guy, but he shouldn't be playing this much. So that is the problem that we talked about last year, and they didn't play a lot of guys until like the last 10 games, 20 games when they started to fall, and still made it close. And now this year, nobody has a chance to break in from the younger crowd until Torts decides, and that's the problem that they're going to have now. And if they lose a little more, it's going to be worse because fans are going to want that, because fans are almost, I think, at the point where they're like, look, it was nice what happened last year. If we'd have made the playoffs, that's great. But we need to look to the future to be better than the mushy middle kind of team that they may be. It's better to be a mushy middle team with prospects in it than other guys. Now, there are people that could tell me, hey, Flyers are one of the youngest teams. Our average age is 25. Okay, great. But not everybody is a prospect for them. Ryan Poehling is not a long-term prospect. He's just not old, and he's not having a good year either. So, age is relevant in that discussion, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think that, play Mishkov, play your young guys, let them make mistakes, let them learn from their mistakes. Don't worry about winning or losing. You need talent in that organization. You've got a boatload of draft picks. If you could get a top 5 draft pick to add to the guys that you have right now, next year you might. No, I'm not saying you're going to make the playoff, but you need to form.
They have a bunch of picks in this draft, so they really could make some headway. When we, Mike, make sure you get Dan B's question up there, because I have some light I can shed on that.
Okay.
All right. So
Nashville is winless. Trott's going to fire coach and get behind the bench.
He's not going to do that, and I'll tell you why he's not going to do that. I was covering the Rangers back in the 2000s, and Glenn Sader did that. Glenn Sader went behind the bench. He's going to make the playoffs. He's going to change things. He didn't. If you remember, Lou went behind the bench for a little while with the Devils. That didn't work. It doesn't work when those guys go behind the bench. This is a long time away from the years where that might have worked. So I think the problem is that Nashville's a bit overrated. I think they still are going to have some trouble scoring. I said that they're a playoff bubble team, and I think ultimately they could still make the playoffs, but they're a margins team, and I think Barry Trotz is finding that out. I think for he look, and he's saying all the right things. He's like, listen, it's nice to be good on paper, but everybody's got to prove it. He's putting pressure on his guys, but I think maybe fans thought it was a little too easy for Trotz in the sense that look at this great job he's doing. He's got all these guys. It's lined up. It's all looking great. Hockey never works that way.
Okay, a couple questions in the chat here. Brendan,
agree, disagree? What do you think?
I think they're sticking with the coach for a long time. I think that they're going to allow, you added a bunch of new players. You added 3 basically core players in Stamkos, Marchessault, and Shea. I think there's going to be a lot of rope there. Plus, I don't think if they fall behind early, if it was the East, they would be in deep trouble in terms of falling behind and not being able to get back into the race in the West. I think in the West, it's easier to get. I mean, if Edmonton can get back in the race at 2-9-1 or whatever the hell they were when they fired Woodcroft,
right?
Then Nashville can get back in. Brendan O'Neill, how long before Danny B and Jonesy jump in and either change the coach or clear out some of the players?
Well, I would think if things went bad for, like, let's say the first 30, 40 games, then at that point, I think that stuff would start to happen. Already, you could tell the coach is kind of like tense.
Mm-hmm.
He's already not liking some of the questions the media was giving him, and it was game 1. So I think the losing could wear on John, and that could precipitate something.
I did say that Torts would be the first coach fired.
Yep.
So that should tell you my prediction. Esmir asks, do you think the Avalanche can find a goalie because Georgiev looks terrible? Okay, Georgiev does look terrible.
He now looks terrible. He didn't the last year or the year before in my eyes, but now he does.
Yeah. Now, I'm looking up his contract status. I think he might be in his last year.
Yeah, he's not a lot of money either.
Right, he's in the 3s, I think. Let's see, yeah. Colorado. Final year, $3.4 million. So if they were going out and getting themselves a goaltender, I've heard Mackenzie Blackwood's name mentioned.
That's not going to be good enough for them, though.
The John Gibson stuff would make a little bit of sense because I think I don't know if he wants out of Anaheim, but I do think
I think he might consider Colorado.
Yeah, because there's a good support structure there.
Yeah, there's a good base there. I think Gibson's possibility. I think rather than the usual. Hold on, let me move that.
Okay, Gibson's a possibility, and I think so. I don't know if you can put Tristan Jarry in that position because right now, I don't think Jarry can handle anything right now. He's just so falling apart. I don't know if
his contract is going to prevent him from getting traded, Jarry.
Yeah, would you go for a Marc-Andre Fleury?
He wants to stay in Minnesota. But could you get one of their others? Maybe.
I don't think you can get Wallstedt. I think you can get Gustafsson.
Right. And Gustafsson could do the job. So I think Gustafsson's a possibility. I think you would look at guys like maybe Lukas Dostal. I think you would look at guys like who's another guy that's kind of like in the middle there.
For what team?
For any team. I wonder, is Varlamov just like he's only going to play for the Island? I kind of wonder. He did play in Colorado once, but it was for WA too. So
yeah, I don't think that's happening. It's tough.
Probably one or two others that we're not really thinking about. Like a guy like Vladar is not going to work.
Cam Talbot?
Talbot, I don't think would work. He's not working much anywhere. A guy like Grubauer, who they've had before, maybe with a little better team could give them something. So maybe a Grubauer could give them something. Somebody like that. They're not going to get a Gibson. Most likely Gibson's going to stay where he is, but they might be able to get like a Grubauer, which, again, if you're making them a tandem, you could get Georgiev back in his rhythm then.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking, what's that?
Brendan wrote Cal Peterson. The Flyers can't even afford to call up Cal Peterson because they don't know what's going on with Ryan Johansson, and they have a little bit of cap space. They can't even call him up. So you think a team's going to take him and like want that NHL salary that he's? It's no, nobody.
And no team in the West who has excess goaltending is going to help out the competition. Like say St. Louis was interested in trading either Binnington or Hofer. Right. The last thing they're going to do is trade him to Colorado.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
They'll trade him to the East.
Right.
They won't trade him to the West. Okay. Who is it? Terry 3.
Was joking. All right, that's fine.
Terry 3Gs. When it comes time for the Leafs to move players, are they moving players to get assets or a further piece to fit the current roster? Well, okay. First of all, if you're talking about a Liljegren, then they're moving him to get an asset and to clear salary. Now, you'd say, well, that's tough to do, but he's a right-hand shot defenseman and he's talented. So they can get a return for him, probably a draft pick. But that's where, like, I have issues right now with the way things are structured. Now, they have a couple weeks until they're going to really have to answer this because Kyle Yarncroke probably will be ready to return in a couple weeks. He's not making a ton of money. He's only making $2.1 million.
Right.
You know, when you're paying Ryan Reeves to be useless at 1.3, I mean,
1.3 is nothing, Mike. You told me that yourself.
Well, no, but I'm saying, okay, then waive him. Then that's what you do. You waive him.
Well, they're not doing that.
Right, and that's the problem.
Devils sent down Seamus Casey. So that's a situation where look how good Seamus Casey was doing, and they still sent him down for future development. That tells you something. That tells you that, hey, you know what? That's a good move.
Now, the last thing here, and I don't know how to interpret this, but I did hear the report that Valeri Nichushkin is back.
I want to ask you one thing before you get back with Nichushkin. When is Joseph Wall actually playing?
He might play this week. He's been practicing the last 4 or 5 days. I think right now they just don't want to rush it because they have back-to-backs tonight and tomorrow night, and then Thursday, Saturday. If I had to guess, I think he'll play one of those 2 games, Thursday, Saturday, either against St. Louis at home or in Boston. It would be interesting if his first game of the season was in Boston, the place where he was supposed to play in Game 7 and didn't because of the back injury. And this was a groin injury, apparently.
Yeah.
Now, the Nichushkin news is he's back in North America. He's back in Colorado, and he's skating. He is level 3 of the player's assistants. And I guess from what Elliott or Pierre LeBrun reported, he wouldn't be eligible to come off that list until November. But I believe there's something where the NHL, where Bettman has to give his stamp of approval before he can come back. We still don't know exactly what the situation is. Everybody's assuming something, but I don't want to take a guess because I don't know. But I mean, I hope he has things straightened out because he's a very talented player. But I mean, Colorado has to hope it too because
all they're saying is he's practicing, but he's in whatever phase. So like that means he can't come back.
Yeah, he's got 5 years after this year left in a contract. They need him to come back and play well, but they also need him to come back and.
But they're lucky. They're getting some really good production out of Ross Colton, so that's kind of helping them.
I'm shocked. I mean, 6 goals in 6 games, and that's not the Ross Colton we know.
No, but he was always
a guy. Player. Yeah,
he was always a good player, good solid player. I watched him his whole career, and maybe now he's just ready to take a little bit of a jump now that he's getting to play with a little better players. Like that happens. We've seen that. He's not going to score 30 goals, but he could get 20.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We will be back on Wednesday with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thank you for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.